guys, Meredith Gorman here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
The card before the big event, UFC Vegas 90, Allen versus Curtis. A weak card this week before the big UFC 300 card. Can't wait for that card. Big client card expected there. I'll be breaking down the main card for this event, UFC Vegas 90. Not the greatest card, but we'll talk about a couple decent fights on paper. But we'll provide some free picks here, leans, price talk, and more. A few client plays I already like. A couple of them in the prelims. So get on board if you want the client card. Best week, though, to get on board is next week, guys. We got the Masters. We got UFC 300. Big client cards expected. So if you like volume, good week next week. Systemsportscapping.com or link.me/systemcapping. For everything system capping, resume over there, records, free picks, client opportunities, and more. Current runs. 12-0 pay-per-view run in the UFC. Last two events. That'll be on the line next week. For UFC 300 big client card expected. Get on board now. 16-7 all UFC cards. Run. That's average line plus money, guys. Average line plus money. Big outright winner in the PGA market last week for clients. Plus 4,500, guys. Steven Yeager wins the Houston Open. We had a ton of big ticket winners last year in the PGA. If you guys have been following me for a while, you do remember that. This is the first big one, and it's March only. I expect one or two more, at least, big tickets like this. This is our third outright already for the year, which is about on track for what I expect is about one a month. Usually, you want at least one a month, at least. Last year we had 16 outright, so we exceeded that. But here's another big one. And guys, that's what I'm trying to say. A client subscription opportunity is the best way to profit long term. I don't just bet UFC, right? There's some guys out there that only could bet one sport, two sports. I'm able to bet anywhere from 5 to 7 at very high volume, at very high level, high winning percentage. That's what separates me from a lot of these guys out there, right? Maximum opportunities at value and pricing and being able to handicap multiple sports just allows you to profit more, right? Instead of just you're able to just handicap UFC. You're limited to what you could win each week, right? When I'm handicapping 5 sports per week, or right now it's 4, but MLB, I'm in the test week right now to see if I will be handicapping it. But just when NFL's going on, when golf is every weekend, UFC is pretty much every weekend, more value is available. 6-1 matchup run, 70% on the year, 25-9 free PGA bets. Average line plus money, guys. It's on the line this week. We have a free bet on the line. It's a plus 130 bet. Hopefully you did see that. 9-4 NHL run. Yes, we bet the NHL as well. Lower volume in the NHL. But we do handicap the NHL when the line and the system allows it to. Quick UFC Atlantic City recap. Profitable card thanks to a nice run on, nice hit on Ferro, right? We hit Ferro there, plus 150, and the over 2.5 rounds. The books just didn't have it right here. When I do my lines, I had more than an even money fight, minus 110 all around. Blanchfield, she's just not there yet. 24, her strength, what was her strength, right? Grappling, wrestling. And Ferro showed that the 92% takedown defense was real. The strength was there. Her wrestling was there. And obviously Ferro on the feet was just going to be a lot better. And she proved that. So easy bet there on Ferro. And the over 2.5 round. I expect the fight probably. I probably should have went the distance or a later sub, like over 4.5 rounds. I went a little safer with the over 2.5 rounds there. Parlayed it with a fight not to go the distance, which cashed on Burns. The Burns fight. So, played a little safe there, but if there was a finish, a finish was possible in that fight, but, as it looked, since it wasn't going to the ground, it probably wouldn't have happened. Ferro doesn't really have the power to knock you out. She just picks you apart, which she showed. And, she won 50-45. I think there's even a 50-44 in there as well. Beat the Books is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere else you get podcasts, guys. Give me a follow. Comment over there. Like if you're watching a video. It helps out a ton. Let's get right into it. Guys. Main event. Sorry, my throat's a little scratchy today. Just trying to get through this. Let's get right into it. Allen minus 200 versus Curtis plus 170. The rematch that maybe no one really asked for except Allen, right? Looking for revenge. This is a revenge loss, right? His only loss in his last 6 fights, right? Last loss was 2021. It was against Chris Curtis. Ever since then, he won 6 straight fights, right? Trying to get closer to a title shot. If he continues to win, he won't be far from it. Curtis, after that win, has been very up and down. His career has been very up and down, right? He has losses to Jack Hermanson, Gaslam, no contest for Imamov. Fight Imamov, I expected to win that fight. He was looking good early. And then he has his last win against Marc-André Barrio. It's a close fight. Chris Curtis never really totally blows me away. He finds a way to win. Smart fighter, good takedown defense, and able to out-volume you. That's what usually happens, right? Winner by decision, lands more. Good boxer, good takedown defense, well-rounded for the most part, right? In that first fight, Curtis actually got a finish in the second round. At the time, I did think Allen fought reckless, wasn't smart in there. Continues to improve, though. Continues to grow. And he's smart. He's fighting a lot smarter these days. Right? I do believe in this matchup, he's actually tougher for Allen than Vettori. Curtis does have that 92% takedown defense in almost over 40 fights, guys. Right, over 41 to be exact. That's very impressive. Allen wants to make an MMA fight. He wants to try to get the fight down to the ground, wants to try to look for a submission. May not be able to do that here. Right? If this is just a stand and bang fight, Curtis is always in it due to his volume. Right? Is Allen going to be able to get this fight down to the ground? Is he going to be able to make it an MMA style fight and not just box for 5 rounds? You don't want to box for 5 rounds with Curtis. Right? Curtis will try to outland you, try to out-volume you to win the fight. So I don't love the matchup for Allen here. Right? Allen's going to want to try to look for a submission as well. 14 submissions under his belt, which is 61% of his wins, guys. Problem is, Chris Curtis just doesn't get submitted. And is he going to be able to get the fight down to the ground? Lots of question marks here for Allen. Right? Now, a couple question marks with Curtis as well. Right? Taking this on short notice. How prepared is he for 5 rounds? We don't know. It's a question mark. Right, short notice. We know Allen's going to be prepared for the 5 rounds. Obviously, the opponent's different. So Allen will have to adjust to that. But Curtis, how much? I know he's always training, but is he training for 5 rounds? Right, so keep that in mind. And it's not super short notice. It's not like last time. I think they both were on short notice in that fight, a week or something. This is a lot longer. I get it, but it's a 5-round fight. So you got to understand that. Right? But, you got to favor Curtis here on the feet. In volume, right? Over 6 per minute. You got Allen around 4. Just under 4, actually. 3.8. If you take a look at Allen's 6-fight win streak, let's look at it a little more. I wouldn't say there's any impressive wins in there. No big names, right? Just mid-table guys like Malkoun, Jocko, Munez, Silva, Paul Craig. No bad fighters in there. All decent level fighters that, have some nice wins under their belt. Tough guys to beat. But no ranked top guys is what I'm trying to get at here, right? Curtis has fought the better guys. I do have the better resume and competition for Chris Curtis. Right? I do believe there is value here at plus 170. Shop around, there's some plus 80s there if you like Chris Curtis. I do think the matchup's good for him. Again, the concern with the short notice. I don't know how ready he is for the 5 rounds. And obviously Allen's improved. He's improved a lot from that 2021 fight. Right? This fight is not going to get my money, especially at Allen at minus 200, even if I lean his way. If I had to bet this fight, it would be a value bet. Smaller unit value bet on Chris Curtis due to the price. I'm just not in love with Chris Curtis. Like, how he's winning fights are very close. He doesn't put guys away, really. Obviously, he put Allen away in that one fight, but after that, just not putting guys away, doesn't have that killer instinct, is what I like to say, where Allen does. And Allen could finish this fight. It's just, I don't love the matchup for Allen. It's one of the worst matchups for him, in my opinion. Due to Curtis's great takedown defense and due to his volume on the feet, and he has that one loss type of kryptonite scenario, right? Is Curtis that kryptonite, right? That loss at the back of his head. But again, you can look at it, it's a revenge spot. He wants to make up for it. And again, Allen has improved a lot since that fight. So keep that in mind. Tough fight to call. I mentioned value with Curtis. Video and podcast purposes, Beat the Books podcast, I'm going to lean Brandon Allen. I'm not betting this fight, though. I'm not betting this fight. If you're betting the value with Chris Curtis, I wouldn't call you crazy. Plus 180 on him due to the matchup. I think it's fairly good. I'm staying away from this for betting purposes for clients. Co-main, Hernandez minus 200 versus Jackson plus 170. Decent little fight here. Hernandez's career so far has just been underwhelming, right? That's a good way to put it. A lot of hype for him. Looks the part. Good athlete. Some skills are there. Just doesn't put it all together. More of a mindset thing, I think, with him. Mindset issue. So that he doesn't fight smart. He has a lot. He has lost 3 of his last 4 fights, right? One big win over Jim Miller in there. You got to give his tip your cap to him. Jim Miller kept on winning. He's winning fights. Lost that fight, though, to Hernandez. And there's more Hernandez being more athletic, being the younger guy in there. But losses to like Algio, Billy Q, just proves he can't get over that mid-table of the division. Now, Jackson, I actually put below that in competition. That's why I'm going to look at Hernandez here. Don't love the price of minus 200. Probably won't get my clients money. But for Beat the Books podcast purposes, I'm going to have to look at Hernandez here. Jackson's path is, to submit you, right? Get you down to the ground. I think Hernandez is going to be the stronger fighter in there, quicker on the feet, better striker. Jackson's only advantage, in my opinion, is in the submission game. I just don't think it really gets there. I don't think you can bring down Hernandez in this fight. I think Hernandez just kind of picks him apart on the feet, wins the fight due to his athleticism. Right, minus 200 is tough to get. Jackson, a little older fighter, lost 2 in a row now. We have seen Hernandez submitted once in his past 4 fights against Renato. Very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. I don't know if Jackson gets his fight down to the ground. Right, I don't really see it. Hard to get to the plus 170. Not enough meat on the bone. Again, hard to get to Hernandez at minus 200. I get it. I get it. But for Beat the Books podcast here, I will look at Hernandez as the play. It's going to be the free play. Again, just tough to back. I just see more pass for Hernandez. Right, Hernandez could finish him. TKO, KO. Hernandez could just win by decision due to volume and just outstriking him. Just don't have If Jackson was maybe a better wrestler, get this fight down to the ground, I could see him winning this fight. I just don't have him as the bigger, stronger guy in there. A little, older now at the end of his career. Cherry at minus 125 versus Mariscal plus 100. Some value here at plus 100 on Mariscal. I've seen some of his fights in the past. Obviously, Cherry, the French fighter. The France only fought one time. It was on the French card. They gave him a layup. Most of his fights I looked at, he's fighting lower level guys in Europe, right? Sometimes just squeaking by in the fights. Good talent. Some concerns here. Obviously, to travel from France to Vegas. Mariscal has some good fights already under his belt. He's fought a lot of guys. Resume advantage, huge advantage for Mariscal. You're giving me plus money. I would have to look his way. I do think he might have a grappling, wrestling advantage as well here. He averages over 3 takedowns per 15, Mariscal. So I think that's the path here. We've seen him, fight a tough guy like Trevor Peek. He was able to win that fight. He's fought other guys on the regional scene like Bryce Mitchell. He went 3 rounds with. And, I think Mariscal is more tested than Cherry. maybe skill for skill on the feet. You can maybe lean Sherry, the French fighter. He's a little more flashy. But Mariscal has shown me enough to bet him at plus money here. Is it going to make my client card? If it does, it's for a smaller unit. But there is value here at Mariscal plus 100. I think there is some money coming in on him already. He was a little bigger underdog, but people are starting to see and see why there is value here on Mariscal. When this video comes out and this podcast comes out, it may move even more. So there is some value there. Could be a close fight though, right? If you are betting the underdog here, you might get a close decision win. So keep that in mind here. Bob Mundez is back. Minus 334 versus Gagios. Plus 250. This could be a sneaky good fight. Both guys are explosive and are coming off losses. You expect Gigas to try to wrestle here. You're going to expect him to try to mix it up. Right? He has some power on the feet too, but he tries to mix it up and tries to wrestle. You don't want to try and stand and bang, in my opinion, with Bahamundos. That's where his strength is. He has that reach advantage. He has that height advantage. 4-inch reach advantage on Gagios and 6-inch height advantage for him. He's going to want to try to get this fight down to the ground. Bahamundos has shown some decent defense, takedown defense at 85%. Decent. Solid. For the fighter from Chile, however, hasn't fought a wrestler, in my opinion, like Gagios, a guy that will continue to pressure. Now, the thing is with Gagios, his gas tank, he has issues. I don't think he's going to be able to wrestle for 3 rounds. And that's where I think the younger fighter, wins this fight down the stretch, right? Gagios could steal the first round. A good live bet opportunity on the Chilean fighter if he gets past the first round here. I think he wins down the stretch. Keeps this fight on the feet. I expect him to hurt Gagios on the feet. And I think that reach advantage comes into play here. So yeah, minus 334, terrible price. Very hard to bet. Could be a 2-fight parlay piece for me this weekend, possibly. But at minus 334, shop around, try to find a better price. That price is terrible for a younger fighter. And Gagios has won as underdog before, as a big underdog price before. It's nothing new for him. So keep that in mind. If he's able to wrestle and the gas tank can hold up, he could win this fight. However, Bahamundos, I do think this advantage in the height and reach will come into play here. I think his takedown defense is fairly decent at 85%. And if you just keep this on the feet, you should pick apart Gagios to win this fight. Price is terrible. Walker, minus 275 versus Brzezicki, Polish fighter, plus 225. Ugly one here, guys. Ugly heavyweight fight. Brzezicki, a guy, he's 0-3 in the UFC. He losses to Badai, very low-level guy. Carl Williams, good wrestler, and he just wrestled him to victory there. And Costa. It's just his UFC contract here is on the line, right? He loses this fight, he's gone. Guess who Walker is, guys? He's making his UFC debut. Apparently, he's Johnny Walker's brother. Okay? Johnny, you can see it a little bit in the pictures, but yeah, big boy. He's going to come in at every of 260, 265. He does have an 11-0 record. Keep that in mind. Like, it's very low-level guys in Europe. But how good is Brzezicki? Not good. Not good, right? Is this going to be his toughest test? Maybe. But I think the UFC is, giving him a softball here and trying to build him up as Johnny Walker's brother. And when I did look at tape let's call Johnny Walker's brother. When I did look tape on him, he can wrestle. And Brzezicki comes in lighter heavyweight, guys. 235, 240. Watch the weigh-ins to make sure. But his last fight, he came in at 235. So Walker's going to have a lot of weight on him. I expect him to try to wrestle here, get this fight down to the ground. That's where you're going to have the advantage. So again, Walker at the price, obviously not appealing for a UFC debut, and possibly you could say this is toughest test yet, even though it's not a tough test in my opinion. Play's going to be Walker. Hard to make my client card though for mid-tier heavyweight guys, low-tier heavyweight guys, let's say. Could Walker be something? Sure, but you got to show me it. He hasn't fought in the UFC yet. I got to see it with my own eyes before I start betting minus 275. Just not practical, right? Doesn't hit the system criteria not to bet a debut fighter minus 275. Even though I do think he should win the fight. It's just there's not enough value there at minus 275, and there are concerns with the debut and the competition he has been fighting. So for podcast purposes, I'll look at Walker here. He should be able to wrestle. Should be able to wrestle here. Can he get the fight down to the ground and keep him there will be the question. Fun one to open up the main event. Should be competitive, and there's some value. Or Peak plus 162 versus Campbell minus 188. Value, I think, on Peak. Hard to stay off a guy that will fight for your money. Right, I have this fight, closer to Campbell is a slight favorite just due to I think he's a little more skilled, a little better on the feet, nice jab. How durable is he though? Right, we've seen Campbell knocked out in the first round against Duncan. Peak is durable, we know that. Peak does have some power, he does throw some hands. So if Campbell is coming forward and trying to put away Peak, Peak has that power to knock him out. We've seen Campbell fold quickly in the first round, and that was just a few fights ago on the Dana White Contender Series. We know Peak's durable. He should stay around in this fight. I think there's some value at plus 162. Again, this is not a fight I would bet for my clients. If I did, it would be a very small unit on the value. It would be something called the value bet. And it would be a lower value price because I do think the line is incorrect. Even though I do have Campbell as a better all-around MMA fighter, I think his jab is very good. I think he's a good striker. It's just, is he warranted minus 188? I would say no. I would say he's not warranted this price. So, value bet with plus 162 Peak will be the lean for podcast purposes. Probably won't make my client card, but there is value here on Peak. That will do it, guys. That will do it. I'm very excited for UFC 300. I've already, been obviously handicapping the card. I'll have a long video next week on this. I'll probably go over the main card like usual and maybe a couple fights on the prelims as well as a bonus. So look out for that. I'm going to have a big client card next week as well. Like I always say, guys, bet smart and know your limits. Enjoy UFC Vegas 90.